Great. Morning. Mr. Snyder, would you introduce yourself, tell us your name and your DOC number, please?
Good morning. My name is Alan Snyder, DOC number 169143.
Right. And counsel, would you introduce yourself for the record?
Good morning. My name is Bernita Softly.
And would you, typically the attorney wraps it up for us at the end with their presentation. Is that how you'd like to work it, or would you like to do it in the beginning?
I like to speak at the end.
Okay, great. So we'll ask for your remarks at the end after we hear Mr. Snyder's statement before we go. Okay. So let me just acknowledge the folks who have joined us. We have here with us in support, we have Charles Goebel and Mr. Martin Alexander. Joining us by Zoom, we have Carrie Myers with the Parole Project, Kiana Johnson, Freddie Lloyd, and Marie Snyder. And let me acknowledge the list that I have from Angola. In support, we have that's legal staff, Claire Fitzpatrick, Fran Jordan Snyder, son, Alan Snyder's son, Earl Snyder, a brother, and Clyde. In opposition, we have also joining Mr. Meyer from the DA's office and Ms. Shirley Moore, both of whom will be speaking in opposition. At the appropriate time, we'll call them in to do so. All right, so first I'll read some identifying information, Mr. Snyder, and ask you to confirm it. Then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marabella. Your case has been assigned to him. He'll take the lead on the meeting. So, Mr. Snyder, you're here today seeking the commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish. In August 1997, you received a death sentence, an original charge of first-degree murder. That conviction was reversed later, and you got a new trial. In March 2008, you were found guilty of second-degree murder and received, in March of 2012, a life sentence. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Would you answer Mr. Marabella's questions, please?
Good morning, Mr. Snyder. My name is Tony Marabella. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Snyder, how old are you, sir?
61.
How long have you been in prison on these charges?
28 years.
So if my math is correct, you were roughly 33 years old when this happened. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Tell me a little bit about Alan Snyder at 33 years old. What were you doing? Were you working?
Yes, sir.
What kind of work were you doing?
At the time, I was a dispatcher for Continental Grain on the river, boats.
How long had you been doing that work?
Roughly about 6 months on that job, on the same job, the boats. But I've been working with the company 8 years.
Tell me a little bit about your education at the time. Did you finish school?
Yes, sir.
And you were in the Marine Corps, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years of active duty, 2 years inactive.
And did you learn any job skills while you were in the Marine Corps?
A job skill, I did a lot of police work.
So tell me a little bit about alcohol or drugs at the time, 33 years old. You drinking?
Yes, sir. I drank.
How often would you drink?
I'm sorry.
How often would you drink?
Probably most of the weekends.
And what would you drink?
Kvasse, Crown Royal.
How much would you drink on the weekends?
Not to the point where I was unable to function. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 highballs.
And how about drugs? Have you ever taken drugs?
Never. I tried marijuana. I got involved with cocaine, got in trouble for it.
Tell me about, when did you try marijuana?
Off and on over years, probably about, never smoked a whole joint in my life. Always shared it with someone. But not
Now,
consistent.
you mentioned you got in trouble with cocaine. 1989, got arrested for or you pled guilty to possession of cocaine. Tell me
Yes,
what was going on there. Were you using the cocaine, selling the cocaine, what?
Selling it.
Did you ever use it?
No, sir.
How is it that you got to start selling cocaine? What brought you to that?
I was on layoff at the time, hanging around with some guys that I went to high school with in the country, and got a bit bored. Tried something that they've been doing. 2 times I sold to a police twice, got in trouble, went to drug treatment for 12 weeks, never touched the stuff again.
Well, let me stop you. I asked you a minute ago if you were selling it or using it, and you said you were selling.
Yes, sir.
But why did you go to drug rehab for 2 weeks if you were just selling?
It was required in my probation that I go to the drug treatment program for 12 weeks.
But you never used cocaine? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, that's what you're telling me, or no, you never used it?
I never used it, sir. I sold it.
But part of your sentence was requiring you to go through some sort of substance treatment. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
After that, did you ever use cocaine again or marijuana or any other illegal drugs?
No, sir.
Were you drinking Cavassier and Crown back then as well?
No, sir.
When did you start drinking?
In the 90s, probably around in 94, 95, got a little excessive.
Okay, what do you mean it got a little excessive? Tell me about that. A minute ago, you said, oh, you just drank a couple of drinks. Now, I need you to tell me, now's the time for you to become honest with us.
Yes, sir.
Because I need to know if there were some issues that you've had that you've resolved. I'm hearing you didn't have a drinking problem, and now all of a sudden, hey, got kind of out of control. And what does that mean?
That means I started drinking every weekend after work.
Okay, now, how did that get out of control? Tell me that. Those were your words.
After hard days, working a lot of overtime, every weekend, me and some of the guys on the job, we get together, we drink.
Your words were out of control. Tell me how that was out of control.
Out of control, after one drink, it can cloud your judgment. After 2 drinks, you definitely will make some bad decisions. That's what I mean when I say out of control.
Well, and did that almost every weekend?
Every other weekend, yes, sir.
You consider yourself to be an alcoholic?
No, sir.
Why not?
I guess because I didn't drink 5, 7 every day of my life, but I did take AA, and I understand the severity of drinking.
Well, tell me a little bit about that. What did you learn in AA?
Admit that your life became unmanageable because of the drinking.
Well, have you admitted that? I mean, you haven't admitted that to me. You said you weren't an alcoholic.
I admit it. The alcohol can cause problems and will cause problems. So in AA, I learned that one drink can't do this. So guess what? I would not touch the stuff again. After I went through this AA program and realized the effect of it and seeing how people are dying on the street because of one drink or drinking while driving, I have no desire to touch this stuff.
So how is it, what do you have in plan? What plan do you have in place when you get out, when things go bad, when times get tough, and it's easy to drink a little Cavassier and a little Crown to calm down a little bit? What do you have in place that's not going to happen?
I do a lot of exercise. and I find myself dealing with the alcohol, I don't have to associate with guys that does that type of thing that will influence me in any way because of the lifestyle that I live, not only here, prior to coming here, I started to associate myself with people who wanted to be successful in life, people that worked every day.
Slow you down just a little bit. We're going to talk about the crime in just a moment. You started out your statement by saying you had a few drinks before all this happened. Was that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, a minute ago, you just said, well, I started before I came here. I quit my association with all those people and quit drinking. You were drinking that night, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you one more time, because if you haven't figured it out, it's critically important to me for you to get my vote, and I'm convinced you're going to stay sober when you get out. What is your plan to stay sober? Don't tell me you're going to exercise. You said you go to AA. What have you learned in AA that you're going to put in place when you get out to make sure you don't go back to drinking?
I don't need no alcohol. Alcohol would not be a part of my life.
That's not a plan. That's a desire. What is your plan?
My plan is to get involved with the church, is what I've been trained to do, and I want to stay in the church and travel, allow my sons to travel with me to come in and out of prison so we can help other people who are struggling and let them know that they don't have to turn to alcohol. There are other decisions that we can make instead of drinking.
What are you going to do for you to make sure you've taken AA? How much AA have you taken? Tell me what are the tools that you learned through AA to stay sober?
One day at a time, sir.
Well, I understand all the little catchphrases, but what are you going to do the moment you get out of prison to stay sober?
Stay away from the alcohol, sir.
All right, okay. Sounds to me like you need a little more treatment and substance abuse. Let's talk about what happened that night. Tell me what you had been drinking that night when you ended up stabbing these people.
I had one drink, sir.
One drink. So alcohol didn't influence you.
It played a role. Yes, sir.
What role played? What role did alcohol play in your stalking this lady and killing? Tell me what role alcohol had.
I believe that the alcohol just a stimulus to try to quiet my thoughts down, slow me down.
And then what happened after you had the drink?
I paged my wife a few times. Hopefully I could convince her to come home that night. She didn't call back. I decided to drive out. Hopefully I ran into her. Didn't end up by a cousin's house. Then I walked down by my mother-in-law's house.
You didn't stalk them and go look for them and go wait for them when they came there?
I went to a cousin's house. That's where she called me from. I went from last place she called me. I went to a cousin. Then I went to my mother-in-law's house, and they had a car parked there with the lights running, headlights on, and the engine was running.
Where did you get the knife?
Sir?
Where did you get the knife from?
Where did I get the knife? I had a knife in my pocket.
So tell me what you did. Tell me the whole process from the time you had your drink. You said you only had one drink. What did you drink?
Probably Crown Royal on the rocks.
Okay. So after you went to have that drink at
A place called C&H. That's a club.
a bar,
Yes, sir.
and you had one drink. And
Yes,
that
sir.
was what, stimulate you, you said, or to slow you down?
Yes, sir.
What did you need to be stimulated or slowed down from? What were your feelings? What were your emotions? What was going on with you that you needed a drink?
My emotion was all over the place.
Now tell me about it. What were they?
Anticipating she's coming home, gonna bring the kids home, excited,
Jealous? Angry?
probably, not sure.
And what did you go look for her for?
To convince her to come home.
What did you learn? What did you decide when you saw she was with another man?
I didn't know who she was with or where she was at. But I acted out.
You learned at one point she was in the car with another man. What went through your head at that point?
When I looked in the car, my mind went blank and I cut and stabbed those people.
What kind of knife did you have? You said you had a knife in your pocket. What kind of knife did you?
I had a steak knife in my back pocket.
You had a steak knife in your back pocket. Where did you get that steak knife from?
When I left home, it was in my back pocket.
So you were in a bar drinking with a steak knife in your back pocket?
Not even realizing.
Why did you put a steak knife in your back pocket?
I have no idea.
Weren't drinking at home, so you had a clear head when you put that steak knife in your back pocket?
It was just, I was, at the time she called me, I was eating something. I was eating pork finger, barbecue pork finger at that time. I got up, rushed out, jumped in the car and just drove.
You just stuck the steak knife you were using in your pocket. It was still full of barbecue sauce or something on it?
Possibly, I'm not sure, sir.
No, I don't think I believe that. Is that your story? Is that what you're telling me? Because I believe you were angry and you were looking for her and you wanted to put a stop to her boyfriend. That's not true.
Sir.
Now it's time for you to be honest.
Well, can't really say I was angry, but I was excited that we talked about reconciling, she was coming home. So
You're the only one that suggests that in all of the reports that she talked about coming home. She never said that. Reports indicate that that isn't so.
we discussed possible.
I'm not trying to retry your case, Mr. Snyder.
Yes, sir.
I'm here simply to see how honest you're going to be to me and whether or not you've changed from the man that committed murder 27 plus years ago. Now, if your story is that, be perfectly frank, you stick with it, you say whatever you want to do. But I've got to make up my mind as to whether or not I believe you being honest with me or not. If that's your story, now let's talk about what you did when you got to the car. How many times did you stab that?
I have no idea, sir.
Why did you stab her?
I have no idea. She called my name and my thoughts, wherever it went, it came back. I panicked, I ran, and when I realized what I'd done, I called the police and told them to come get me. Because I realized what I'd done. I'm responsible for taking Howard Wilson's life. And there isn't word enough to express how remorseful I'm at. I just could not believe what I've done and the pain I caused. And absolutely nothing, no words can be expressed what I took from the Wilson family.
Talk a little bit about what you've done while you've been in prison. Tell me about the AA you took. How many How many programs have you taken dealing with substance abuse while you've been in prison?
AA is the only one that I took with the alcohol.
Now it seems to me from reading your prison record, and from what they report back to me, that your position, for whatever reason, has been, you don't have a drinking problem. Alcohol and drugs have never been an issue with you. Consequently, you were never offered or given any other sort of substance abuse treatment. Is that right?
These are classes that was optional, offered. I enrolled in them voluntarily.
Well, let me, it was a poor statement I made. Your report suggests that whenever you were discussed about substance abuse with the professionals there in the Department of Corrections, you always indicated you never had a substance abuse problem, whether it be drugs or drinking. Isn't that right?
No, sir, I do not.
That's what the report basically says. You have no
Okay, yes,
history.
sir.
So they didn't recommend any substance abuse program because of what you told me. Now we realize you had a pretty significant drinking problem.
Yes, sir.
Can we both agree on that now?
Yes, sir.
So the only class you took on substance abuse was AA. And what was that? Was that just a class about teaching you what Alcoholics Anonymous is? What was that class about?
And the effect, not only does it affects you as an individual, but it affects everyone that's connected to you, around you, your family, how you deal with, if you're a father, how you deal with your kids, if you're a husband, how you deal with your wife, a friend, how you deal with those other people, or your employer, or your job. It affects all of that if you're under the influence of any kind of alcohol.
You've taken some very good programs. I'm looking at your record. I mean, you've done lots of faith-based programs. You've got an associate's degree. You've got a bachelor's degree in Christian ministry. You've taken anger management. You've taken thinking for a change. You've taken victim awareness. You're in Toastmasters. You're in JCs. You've done a lot of really good things while you've been in prison. Malachi Dad's 100 hours pre-release. You've done a lot of really, really good things while you've been. Tell me what you believe is the most important things you've done while you've been there.
I believe making rounds on the ward and seeing men bedridden in the wheelchair, and one time or another, one of those guys would ask, could you just come over here and help me, take me out of my wheelchair and put me in the bed? To be able to help someone who can't help themselves, it puts you in a place where, what do I do? I'm not an orderly over here. I'm just an inmate minister making rounds. But what do? I heed to his voice. In spite of what it smells like in there, I pick him up, I help him to his bed. Or I help one, he's want to go get on the scale and weigh himself. Say, could you come over here and give me a hand? Or just go sit with them and listen to them. That's the best thing I've done, to be able to give my time to someone else.
What is your transition plan? I see Mr. Myers, Mr. Kerry Myers is here. You're going to the parole project. What do you anticipate doing at the parole project?
Whatever they ask me to do. But I also have a job set up. But I'm willing to do whatever they need me to do to make it possible for someone else to be able to transition.
And who will you live with once you finish the parole project?
Lee Smith.
And where at?
New Orleans.
And what kind of work do you hope to do?
He owns a shipyard, a scrap yard, something I'm very familiar with.
What about your physical health? Are you physically able? Have any medical issues?
I got a problem with my knees and feet, but I can manage. I drive the truck.
Do you take any sort of medication?
I take high blood pressure medicine right now, and I take for my cholesterol.
Now, tell me what you've learned about in your anger issues. I mean, you know, we tried to talk a little bit about what caused this. I believe what caused this is a combination of your emotions, your anger, your jealousy, and alcohol. So what have you done about anger, jealousy, and all of those emotions that led you to put that knife in your pocket, have a drink or two, and go kill this guy and stab that lady? Tell me what you've learned about how to control those emotions.
What I've learned is to cage my rage. In the cage of rage is there always a primary thing that strikes your arm that leads to secondary action. I realized that once your emotion is out of your control, you learn to control your own emotion. I know in this environment, you could be upset about many things day in and day out with guys living next to you. So what I've learned to do is not let what other people do control your emotion and help you make bad decisions. Because at the end of the day, the decision is totally my decision to make. If I allow someone to make me angry, they really controlling me. I don't have no control. So I've learned this for these past 20 plus years is how to control my own emotion and make my own decision in spite of whether they say something to me in derogatory, I mean, any kind of thing to try to degrade me or say something I don't like. I don't allow people to make me angry or control me. And I'm still able to make good decisions in spite of, I can agree to disagree. And that's what I've been practicing day in and day out.
What can you tell us about Mr. Snyder?
I can tell you that he did have a certificate of participation for the sober group of Alcoholics Anonymous. He completed that, the 12 steps and the 12-step tradition of Alcoholics Anonymous on May 4th of 2013. Everything else you mentioned in the that he had taken, you mentioned that already.
Thank you. Madam Chair, that's all.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Mrs. Snyder. How are you?
Morning, sir.
Mrs. Snyder, let's go back to August 16th, 1995. You remember that date?
Yes, sir.
You got arrested, and then you made several statements after being arrested when you were interrogated. One of the statements was you said, you admitted to stabbing Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Snyder. You admitted to arming yourself with a knife. And you parked 1 block away and walked through an empty lot and hid behind a trailer. And there was an eyewitness and saw you hide behind the trailer. And when you saw the car in front of the residence, then you approached the car, hopped in, and started immediately using the knife. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, sir.
So why did you park 1 block away from the house? Why didn't you go to the house? You wanted to fight.
At that time, no thought.
You had sense to hide behind a trailer to see what was going on because you were harassing and you were stalking your wife.
Yes, sir.
Well, that statement was made by you the day that you were arrested.
Yes, sir.
You said you armed yourself with a knife. You didn't say you had a knife in the back pocket and just accidentally had it when you approached the car.
No, sir, that wasn't no accident. That was, it was in my pocket, sir.
So why did you arm yourself with a knife that day?
Well, that's a bad neighborhood over there, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right, I see no other questions, so we'll hear from, I can allow for 3 speakers. We have more than that who've indicated they'd like to speak. But first, let's hear, you have your son, Alan Jr. there with you. We'd like to hear from him.
Yeah. She can see you right there. You can sit down, she can hear you.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Alan Snyder Jr.
Y'all can hear her?
Yes, we can. Go ahead. What would you like us to know?
I'm just speaking from the heart. Well, my dad, a very good dad. I look up to him a whole lot. He's like an idol to me. Our whole life, well, far as he left when I was 8 years old. So until that time, we was a good, happy family. Him, me, my mom, sister, brother. He raised my sister. She's not his biological daughter, but he raised her like his own. She still calls him dad. We still got a good relationship. Since he's been incarcerated, I mean, he's been in our life the best he could the whole time. We've always been in communication with us and everything like that. And me and my dad relationship is real close and tight knitted. Like I say, I look up to my dad a whole lot. I mean, I know about the situation that happened. We talked about it. Also, I talked to my mom about it as I started getting older and understanding everything that was going on for me coming to the courts and things like that. So, I mean, he take accountability for his actions. I spoke to my mother about it, asked how does she feel about, him being freed, if he ever was to come home. She don't have a problem with it. I think they're pretty cordial right now. Like they spoke to each other a few times on a couple of occasions or whatever like that. And I mean, she wishes well-being and stuff like that. So, I mean, I could just speak up on my dad. Like, as far as the situation go, I just think, I mean, he was younger, acting out of emotion. I mean, I'm his son, so I probably should know something about that. I had trouble with that coming up, but that's probably maybe because I was missing my dad so much or whatever. But I grew to understand things, and I have, I mean, the deepest sympathy for the Wilson family because I know the situation, and we can't turn the hands of time back, press rewind, or undo things. So I definitely feel that pain from their side because I mean, I'm the child and I mean, I had to go through that. I had to go to school. I had to like see stuff on the news, like about my dad and what he did. So that was real hard on me coming up. And I didn't have no ways to filter out the pain that I was feeling. And I just, so I used to lash out in ways. So I mean, I had troubles coming up, but I mean, it made me the man who I am today. And I'm great right now, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm trying to hopefully get my dad out here, and he can meet some of his grandchildren, and I can get him to help me with this foundation that I want to start for kids with incarcerated parents and kids coming from single parent homes, like how I was, and hopefully I could speak and mentor a lot of these kids that looked up to me or know me from throughout neighborhoods, and we can spread it and make it bigger, and we can get a foundation going so where I can help some of these kids and help I mean, some of their families or whatever with the incarcerated parents are just coming from single homes or whatever like that. That's just something that I always wanted to do, an idea that I have, which I'm trying to put in motion as we speak, and hopefully I can get my dad to help me with that, and we can do that and get into his ministry. But he's a great man, great teacher. I mean, I just think it was just a real mistake on his behalf and letting his emotions get the best of him. Because as far as I know him, my dad, like I said, he was in the Marine Corps. He taught us, he taught us things. We did karate after school. Like we stayed out of trouble. We always done things. You know what I'm saying? When we got out of school, he had karate in police force. He always was attentive to everything we did, like with school, field trips, with my sister, like everything. Like even to when my sister real daddy came around, he was very supportive. Like he just was always a great dude. Like I just think it was just like I say, the combination of drinking and the emotions got the best of him, and he just blacked out. So I mean,
Well, we appreciate your input and thank you for your service work.
no problem. You're welcome.
We'll hear from Kenyana Johnson now.
Good morning. Thank you guys for allowing me to take this time out to speak in support of my dad. Like my brother Alan stated, I'm Kenyana Johnson. My dad is Alan Snyder. I'm not his biological child, as my brother did state to you guys, but he's the only dad I've ever known. A little before I turned 1, he adopted me as his own, never treated me any different from anyone. I mean, as far as we know, that's my dad. The story of my relationship with my dad is one of pain, but also forgiveness. I still love him dearly to this day. I definitely look forward to the day where he's able to come home. He's able to be with his grandkids. He's able to spend time with his family. We miss him. We look up to him. We adore him. I mean, I was about maybe 9 or 10 when the present incident that we're talking about happened. I look at my mom today, I still, kind of see her scars, but she's never once talked bad about my dad. She's never once made us resent him. She's never once spoken any harsh words to us. We actually all attended my grandmother's funeral a couple years ago, and it was no issues between every party involved. It was nothing but love, and everyone came together, just I'm currently in therapy right now, so I can begin to learn healthy coping mechanisms. I would hope that he would want to do that as well. We can do that as a family. Like I said, I still have a very strong relationship with him. He never misses a holiday. He never misses a birthday for me or my girls. They know him as grandpa. They know him as the man that we can't wait to spend time with and be out. And, in spite of his incarceration, he has definitely continued to be a dad to myself, my brothers. He's definitely never missed any holidays. He's definitely been there if you needed to talk to him or to speak to him, or he's definitely there just to give you his side of maybe the Christian way to do things, as he did to have his bachelor's in Christian ministries. While forgiving him has been definitely a unique and unexplainable process, I know that my dad has truly changed for the better. I hope that you guys can also see the positive changes as well. Thank you again.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll hear from Mr. Alexander, who's here with us today.
Oh, Lord, good to be here with you today. My name is Whitney Alexander. I'm the missions pastor at First Presbyterian. I'm responsible for about 52 missions. And I just came last night from Egypt, where we have one of our missions partners there. And I told Mr. Snyder 3 weeks ago that I would not miss this oral hearing. I met Mr. Snyder October 26th of 2020. And I was invited with a group of 6 other men to go spend the weekend at Angola. But while we were at Angola prison that weekend, we went through a Malachi Dad's book. The men embraced us. And after those 72 hours, I had a chance to go home. And I literally prayed about what do I really need to do in Angola prison. I had heard about it, but charged as much as I didn't know if we could add one more thing. During that retreat, I sat next to a man that was very quiet, unassuming, and gentle. And the man happened to be Alan Snyder. We became friends. We literally started talking, getting to know each other. Well, 2.5 months later, I went back to Angola. When I came back to Angola in January 2011, I was assigned to family number 4. Alan had been a facilitator with family 4 the entire last 12 years that I've been going to Angola. I have sat next to Alan over 500 visits. Every Bible study that I've been at, I had the opportunity to listen to his heart as he gives out biblical instruction to other men that are in our family 4. I have been amazed by this man's heart. I don't know the man of 28 years ago. I have no understanding of everything that you were describing. But I do know this. I believe wholeheartedly in what it says in the Bible. 2 Corinthians 5 says, the old is gone and the new has come. When one invites Christ into his life. I don't know when Alan invited Christ into his life, but I do know this. He is a strong believer. He has worked extremely hard over the last 20+ years at being at Bible college and getting his degree. Alan isn't the same person he was when he committed that heinous crime. And I really feel deeply from the other side. They lost somebody, people that they loved. But I do know this. The man that I know has served his sentence with excellence. And I do believe Alan deserves the opportunity to come out and, like his son just said, maybe be a part of a foundation. I even have bigger ideas than just that. I think Alan can help many young people down the road stay away from alcohol, stay away from drugs. I do recommend highly his release as soon as possible. I do believe he's going to be an incredible asset to our community. Now, I'm from New Orleans, and I'm glad to hear him say he's thinking about going back to New Orleans. Reconciliation, that's a key for me in everything I do. Reconciliation is a key of all endeavors. I do believe Alan deeply regretted the pain that he was feeling. And I do agree with you, Mr. Marabella, that his mind was numb, it was blank. He did something that he deeply regrets, and that he inflicted pain on the victim's family. And I think he's actually not only remorseful, but he's paid it over and over in his head by thinking about, why did I do this? Why do I think of Alan as a godly man? Over the past 13 years, we literally taught 3 books. The Heart of a Father, The Heart of a Man, Part 1, and The Heart of a Man, Part 2. The book was written, these 3 books were written by a guy that's 90 years old today, named Gene Getz. It's a man that literally talks about the inside, what's going on inside your heart. Alan's heart is beautiful. Did he make a mistake? Yes, he did. I wish he had never done that. But I do believe he deserves an opportunity to come on the outside and to be able to give to his family as well as to give back to his community.
Thank you, sir. All right, now we'll hear from the opposition. We have joining us by phone, we have Ms. Shirley Moore. Ms. Moore, could we get your statement, please? Moore? Stand by, Ms. Moore. We can't hear you. Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
I don't think that he needs to be out this long regardless if he is on good behavior, because he took an innocent person, right? And then he I guess I don't know, it was just like you didn't know this person, but you took an innocent person and you didn't know that what was going on. So I think he needs to be a couple more years.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Moore. We appreciate your input. Ma'am?
Do I pay up or what?
No, ma'am, you listen for the vote.
Okay. And we'd like to hear from the DA's office.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Randy Meyer, Assistant DA, Jefferson Parish. We're strongly opposed to Mr. Snyder's request. He committed a brutally violent crime, attacking two people, killing one. He's only served 28 years of a life sentence. But importantly, I know he's taken a lot of programs, but all of the certificates, the vast majority of those certificates are all faith-based programs, certificates. Looking in the record, there's only one dealing with substance abuse, and that's showing that he completed the 12 steps on May 4th of 2015. He hadn't been truthful with the institution regarding his alcohol use. Hadn't been truthful with his boys. Clearly, his responses to Mr. Marabella and Mr. Roche has shown. He hasn't been truthful about the knife, about the facts leading up to the crime. He said he only drinks on the weekends. August 16th, 1995 was the date of this attack, which is a Wednesday. So he drank more than just on the weekends. In looking through the remainder of the file, I've got some real concerns with what his plans are when he is released. I'm looking to pull up these pages here. So his residence plan is on Lacombe Street in New Orleans, and his job employment plan is with LNS at 10201 Old Gentilly Road. If you look on Google Maps for that address, there's no business at that location. Looks like if there is a business there, there's a at that address, it's swamped in trees, and behind that you can see, looks like it might be some type of a wall of some sort. And down the road a little bit is where there's an entrance, which is a different address and which is a different business. There's a letter in there in the record from LNS Incorporation saying that we're going to give him a job. Which is also at that 10201 Old Gentilly Road address. However, there's no such corporation on file with the Secretary of State in Louisiana. I've got some real concerns with Mr. Snyder and where he is today. I don't think he has shown this board that he is ready for a commutation of sentence, and I would request that he be denied today. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Snyder, before we turn it over to your attorney, would you like to make a statement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
First and foremost, I'm humble for this opportunity. And I would like to say there's nothing. As a matter of fact, there isn't a word in the English language to express how remorseful I am for what I took from the Wilson family and for the trauma and the pain I caused Mary, her family, our own children, all of his sisters, all of Mr. Wilson's sisters, brothers, his child, his son, his wife, all the victims involved. And I didn't know the impact of one bad decision would have on three different families, and how irresponsible, how I failed as a citizen of the community, how I failed as a father, and how I failed as a husband. I just ask this board for mercy, and let's consider all those that spoke on my behalf, that nothing in this world could take the remorse that I have for what I've done. And words cannot express that again. And absolutely nothing can replace what I took from the Wilson family and the pain I've caused in this situation. Thank you.
Sophie?
Yes. Good afternoon, members of the board. Alan Snyder has worked each day of his 28 years of incarceration to show that he's not the same man that committed this tragic crime in August of 1995. As Mr. Snyder sat here before you today, you heard him take full responsibility. You heard about his significant evidence of rehabilitation. And also, Mr. Snyder has a promising reentry plan if he's released. So first, I'll speak about responsibility. I want to make clear that Mr. Snyder takes full responsibility for what happened in August of 1995. You heard him a few moments ago admit to stabbing both Howard Wilson and Mary Snyder. After this crime occurred, Mr. Snyder was immediately remorseful. He called the police to turn himself in, and the police found him curled in fetal position, and he said that he wanted to take his own life because of the harmful actions that he took that night. Also, Mr. Snyder continues that same remorse today. As he said before you today, he said that there are no words or actions that can take away the pain he caused to Howard Wilson's family, as well as the family of Mary Snyder. So Mr. Snyder has decided to channel this remorse into seeking various rehabilitative efforts. As Mr. Marabella mentioned, Mr. Snyder has done a lot of different programs since his time at Angola. He has at least 48 certificates. And Mr. Snyder, he committed this crime out of anger. And he also said that he committed this crime while his feelings were all over the place. I want to make clear that at the time of this crime, Mr. Snyder was going through depression. And Mr. Snyder has worked to address those issues by taking classes such as Cage Your Rage, Victim Awareness, and Thinking for a Change. And he's also sought group therapy to help deal with his depression by seeking group therapy through the Trauma Healing Institute, as well as through the Malachi Dads program, where he served as a facilitator for 10 years. Mr. Snyder has also worked to repair his relationship with his children through the Malachi Dads program, as you see each of them present here today. And part of the reason why that relationship with his children is so positive is because of their mother, Mary Snyder. As you heard from Quinana Johnson, Ms. Snyder has never spoken bad about Alan Snyder, and she's pushed her children to continue a relationship with their father. As a matter of fact, when Alan Snyder's mother passed in 2017, it was Mary Snyder who informed Mr. Snyder of her passing. And they all attended the funeral, Mary, Alan, and his children, with no issues. Also, as Mr. Snyder has went through his 28 years at Angola, he's only accumulated 4 write-ups during 28 years. He's also had Class A trustee status since 2014. And this significant evidence of rehabilitation doesn't go unnoticed. Burl Kane, who was warden of this institution for 21 years, describes Alan Snyder as a model inmate and an example for others that moral rehabilitation really works in prison. Also, Ron Hicks, whom this board granted clemency just last month, describes Alan as a father figure and someone who has guided his personal life as well as his ministry. Also, Mr. Snyder will seek additional substance abuse classes. You've heard that he took Alcohol Anonymous while he was in prison. Mr. Snyder is open to taking whatever rehabilitative programs are out there so that he can continue this upward trajectory. So he will take additional substance abuse classes. Also, Mr. Snyder, you see Carrie Myers present at the hearing as well. If Mr. Snyder is released, he will go through the Parole Project program, which has a less than 1% recidivism rate. Also, Mr. Snyder does have a job with LMS Scrapyard. Mr. Lee Murray Smith, he wasn't able to be present at the hearing today because he has a doctor's appointment, but he does have a job with LMS Scrapyard. So if Mr. Snyder's released, he'll continue this upward trajectory. And although he knows he's not entitled to anything, we just respectfully ask that this board, because of his responsibility, because of his rehabilitation, and because of his promising reentry plan, that you all grant him clemency today, whether that be through commuting his sentence to credit for time served or commuting his sentence to a term of years with immediate parole eligibility. And we just want to say thank you again for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, with the vote, we'll start with Mr. Marabella.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Snyder, you've done a lot of good things while you've been in prison. There's no question about that. You've taken some good programs. You've got some, while you've been in prison, you've been, as former Warden Kane says, model prison, while you've been in prison. You've got excellent support here in our facility right now, talking about how well you've done. And you have, there's no question of it. My concern is what I said to you early on. I don't think honest about what happened here. That's just a factor. A lot of times people cannot come to grips with what they've done. And they make up stories in their own heads about what the crime really was, so maybe they can live in peace. I'm not sure. This was a horrible crime. This crime was predicated on your alcohol abuse, on your emotional issues, and a horrible murder. You armed yourself with a knife. You were not honest with me about what the crime was. You were not honest with me about your alcohol consumption and your alcohol addiction. And you're not being honest with yourself about your alcoholism. And that's where I have the concern. Your lawyer says, and I understand that you'll take whatever we tell you to take when you get out. But you lied to the Department of Corrections about your alcohol abuse. Now, maybe shame on them, they should have looked deeper, but they got so many people they got to deal with, they got to go on what you tell them. And when we first started talking, you said, alcohol, not a big deal. Then you mentioned, oh, I got out of control. And then we started talking. And then you got honest. But you haven't been honest for a long time while you've been in prison about your alcoholism. And all of the plans that you have when you get out are very good. But if you don't deal with you and your alcoholism, you're going to go back to drinking, and something like that's going to happen. I think you need more substance abuse, not only education, but treatment and understand. I was hoping to hear you say, I'm going to go to AA meetings. I'm going to get me a sponsor. These are the tools that I have. I threw, I don't know how many softballs to you asking for that. And you kept fighting. You don't need that. You don't need it. And I think that's the problem. And I think you need to look inwardly and see that you are an alcoholic. You may not have drank for a long time, but you live in South Louisiana. Alcohol and fear pushed on us every day. You better have a plan to stay sober. I hope you get that before you come back the next time. My vote today is to deny you, but to encourage you to continue to work as hard as you do. Thank you.
Mr. Freeman?
Do have some of the same concerns as Mr. Marabella, but my vote today would be to grant commutation sentence to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility.
Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Snyder, I sit here and I listen to you voice that you're remorseful, that you're sorry, but you still don't admit to the facts of your crime. You voice remorse. You can say, I'm remorseful. You gotta show it. You gotta own up, own up to what actually happened that day. And it's repressed, but the rehabilitation doesn't actually start until you actually admit to yourself of what you did. And you remember exactly what you did. based upon the opposition from the victim, Mr. Miller's family, and very strong opposition from the Jefferson Parish legal community, my vote is to deny your request.
All right, Mr. Snyder, so you know the outcome of today, because we only have 4 people, so you have to, it requires a unanimous vote. My vote today, would be to commute your sentence to 99 years with parole eligibility. You have, an excellent conduct record, you have taken advantage of opportunities, at the prison. And I, wrote down the note that Mr. Alexander said, you have served your sentence with excellence. So, but because you've received 2 votes to deny, 2 votes that were favorable, the outcome is that your application's been denied. So good luck to you.
Yeah, so let's unpack that. What we're going to go through is information that might blow your mind. It's court transcripts and really just recent news article. It's pretty, I think, amazing to think that he sat on death row for, I think, 12 years. 12 years before he was given, before it was, I guess, overturned on appeal, because they had proven that we'll go over it, but basically there were no African American jurors, and also the DA kept bringing up O.J. Simpson. There was a lot of reasons to overturn it. But when he had his next trial just as recently as 2012, you're going to see what he said. He was blaming everyone else. He lied. I mean, this is not a man, in my opinion, that deserves any type. And you might agree with me after you read this. Even if you don't, I mean, it was a horrible interview. The idea that any of the judges voted for him just blows my mind, because frankly, we're looking at, I think, just, he literally just lied, even at his own hearing, over and over and over again. And thankfully, we had Mr. Roche to call him out. Look at this. And by the way, it's just food for thought for people who, this is, some people believe in the death penalty, some people don't. But if you're ever having the argument of, hey, why, let's say you are pro death penalty, and someone counters and says, what's wrong with just giving life? This is something that can be used as a factual data point in the argument, which is because people who sit on death row can get out. And they might say, what? That's impossible. No, we've seen it. We've seen people get pardoned, get parole after having sat on death row. And we were just about to watch it happen now. He got 2 votes. So this is, so face being sentenced to life in prison, twice convicted murderer Alan Snyder tried to have his latest conviction tossed out Thursday by laying blame for his crime on his ex-wife. Yes. He depicted as a female fatality, the woman he stabbed in a brutal 1995 attack that left her date dead. Alan Snyder, John McCusker, the Times, Snyder is taken into custody of the home in 1995 connection with the murder of a man stabbing his estranged wife, Mary. Mary Snyder, this is what he said. This is what he said just recently. Mary Snyder has always been controlling and violent one in the marriage, Snyder said of his ex-wife, whom he stabbed 19 times. 19. Would you have known that by listening to this? I don't think they went over that. I don't think they asked him, why did he stab her 19 times? 1, 2, 3, 4. Try to count it out. It's obnoxious. I won't even do it. It's a lot. With his steak knife that he had in his back pocket, and there was nothing premeditated. He snapped, but he had the steak knife because it was a dangerous neighborhood. He was eating his what was it? His pork chops, and he only had one drink, and he never drinks, and he's had his Crown Royal on the rocks, and he's just a good guy. He's excited to see his estranged wife, who's according to him controlling and violent. On August 16, 1995, outside of her parents' home, her date, Howard Wilson, who's 29 years old, was stabbed 9 times. The rage, he really took the rage out in her with the 19. Calling Snyder's argument self-serving, containing allegations never raised before, Judge Glenn of the 24th District Court rejected his request to toss out the jury's unanimous decision to convict him of second-degree murder. Instead, Snarty then sentenced the 49-year-old to mandatory life in prison. This is after he sat on death row, which is a big deal to be in a prison ward on death row. When he was having it overturned, he actually had the audacity to say, "I want you to throw it out." He said, "Take care of yourself, Mr. Snyder." Snyder spent 12 years on death row for his 1996 conviction for first-degree murder in Wilson's death, but the U.S. Supreme Court ordered a new trial in 2008. By the way, there's a Wikipedia page on this, so I'll include the link. So it was quite a momentous Supreme Court ruling, finding that the original judge on the case erred in accepting prosecutors' explanations for reasons that they used preemptory strikes to remove African Americans during jury selection. Justices found the original prosecutor had discriminatory intent in selecting an all-white jury. Prosecutors brought him to trial a second time for second-degree murder. Snyder said that at most he was guilty of manslaughter. Yes, because you stabbed your estranged wife 19 times, and the other man 9 times. That's definitely manslaughter. It was a homicide carried out in the heat of passion, which carries a maximum sentence of 40 years. Really? When you, as Mr. Roche pointed out, parked your car, walked across the empty parking lot, and hid behind a dumpster. That is definitely an act of passion with the butcher knife. But, you only had a butcher knife for self-defense, as we all know. Mary Snyder, who left what she described as physically abusive marriage, told Snyder she would get back together with him even as she was having an affair with one man, and went out on one date with Wilson, according to testimony. He said he saw his wife and Wilson kissing in Wilson's car parked outside her parents' home, and he snapped. In court documents he filed since the conviction, Snyder claims Wilson also was fondling his wife. Snyder also offered a claim of self-defense during his trial, again on Monday, and he asked to acquit him during the trial, suggested Wilson had the knife. During the trial, he suggested that Wilson had the knife. On Thursday, he said his wife actually was in possession of the knife. Do you see this? This is not such a long time ago. He was saying that, no, they had the knife. No, she had the knife. He accused her of being an adulteress. He accused his wife of being an adulterous alcoholic who planned to cause him irreparable harm. Mary Snyder, who did not attend Thursday's sentencing, could not be reached for comment. She acknowledged during the trial she had an affair with the man who moved to Texas and went on a date with Wilson, even though she told Snyder they could reconcile. They also faulted and started for forcing them to share a prosecutor 2 letters Mary Snyder wrote to Snyder while he was on death row. She felt responsible for occurred in the evening and morning. No, you are not responsible. You are not responsible. That's common. We've seen things like that common. It's common. The victim who was stabbed 19 times feels responsible. Like, just the idea of that crossing your mind. You're estranged. You're not married. He hunts you down with a butcher knife, stalks you, kills the man you're with, and stabs you 19 times trying to take your life, to rip you away from your kids. You are not responsible, Mary Snyder. Again, this was just 2012. 2012, this was his rehearing where he made these claims. And they're talking about how, like, was this like 11 years later? Oh, he's, he's great. And I'd be terrified. A man like this, I'm sorry, in my opinion, a man like this needs to be locked up forever because he's a danger to society. He has not admitted his guilt. He has not admitted any issues. He hasn't, like, he's lying to the parole board, manipulating at his own court hearing, lying. This is not someone who did something and then is in pain and sorrow and self-hate and shock and just thinking and wishing that he could do anything to change and improve. It's not. It was only like 11 years since he publicly in court accused his wife of having the knife, accused his wife of being the manipulative abuser. He tried to kill her. He stabbed her 19 times, and he killed the man he was with. He stalked him, and he denied that. Mr. Marabella, he's, the former drug court judge, and he just he loves to just get down into it. Do you have a drinking problem? He's like spending all the time. Oh, I would just drink sometimes on the weekend, every other weekend, a few beers. It's interesting. Give Randy props, assistant DA. He actually Googled a business that this guy supposedly has a job offer, and it doesn't exist. It's like they made something up. And if it existed, you would have thought that the attorney who had the last word would have said, it exists. They didn't mention it. Good for you, Randy. Even in like his own, what'd he say? When I cut and stabbed those people, that's what he said when he was talking about the act. When you cut and stabbed your wife or those people? I had a steak knife in my back pocket. Oh, it's interesting. The attorney mentioned Ron Hicks. You're screwed when an attorney has to mention a former murderer who is given commutation as a reference. He's like, oh, Ron Hicks, remember he got commutation like a few months ago. He says he's a great guy. Well, okay. By the way, I'll put it up here if you want to watch that hearing. It's gonna ping up like here or there. And I'll put it in the description too. But this is, again, a perfect example how someone could be given the death penalty, have it overturned, and then have a sentence commuted. It was just 2 board members away from getting a recommendation for commutation. The governor would have had to sign it, and then he'd be out. And frankly, that's mind-boggling to me, because I just don't see how there are people, the idea of the prison system, it's to punish, right? It's to reform, it's to keep community safe. I don't see reform there. I don't. What that we just watched shows a man who's reformed. Remember, it was just 11 years ago when he made these public statements. Just 11 years ago when he made these public statements. You get what I'm saying. When he accused his wife, when he blamed it on his wife, when he said that the wife had the knife, or that the man he murdered had the knife. Then on his own hearing, where he literally doesn't admit any culpability, where is there any reform? I don't get it. I'd be nervous. I frankly, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Imagine if he got out and his ex-wife is still alive. What will happen if he tries to finish the job? Like, anyways, that's just my point of view. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. I'll upload the appeal, those links, and as always, well, with that, I'll let you go.